Welcome to another edition of GHB Spotlight here on JLJ Media. I am your host, of course, James Lott Jr. And I want to welcome you to the show. We have a great show for you today. I love talking to the actors, past and now, well, present and now past members of the show, General Hospital, our show, ABC's General Hospital. But I also want to get to know him a little bit because he's also in a small movie called Wakanda Forever. He's in other acting gigs too. And we're going to find out more about him. And I'm so glad he's joining me today. Michael Blake Kruse. How are you, Michael?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you bearing with this finally happening, but I'm grateful to be here with you, James.
So you're a three like me. I'm James Lott Jr. We're three named people. So is that on purpose or was that dictated? Because sometimes sometimes in the business there's already a Michael Kruse or whatever.
Yes, yes, that's exactly. It was kind of a business move, only because at the time of joining SAG-AFTRA Union, you had to choose officially what your stage name would be. And when I simply Googled a Michael Kruse at the time, this writer from Florida always popped up in the search. So I just tried to avoid that, and literally just asked my brother what did he think, and he suggested Michael Blake Kruse, and I just stuck with it.
Thanks, brother. Thanks, brother.
That's right.
Siblings come in handy sometimes.
For the most part, I'm a big brother too, so I do what I can to utilize them.
Are you? I like that. Are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest of four.
Okay, I'm a middle child, so I'm always like, help me, somebody notice me.
Oh, I could understand that.
Like he's like to utilize. I like that. They're extensions of your arms and stuff. I like that. They always say with the siblings. But I actually want to start with your upbringing because I read somewhere, and of course this could be wrong, so you can always correct everything be wrong. But were you born in Cap Pendleton?
I was. Both my
Military
parents.
parents?
That's right. Both my parents were in the Marine Corps. My mom got out, I think, just before I was born, and my dad worked in California for another year or two. But yeah, I just come from a military family. Both my brothers served. My brother just got out of the Navy. My other brother was also in the Marine Corps, and then just an extension of cousins and aunts and uncles.
Yeah. What was your upbringing? I like to ask these people because I come from a law enforcement family, so
Mm.
I'm curious. Was your upbringing strict?
I think you know the answer to that. It sounds like, yeah, it was pretty militaristic. Yeah, it taught discipline, it taught taking responsibility for your actions. It was a lot of being on time or you're in trouble kind of thing. Pros
Yes.
and cons to it. For the most part, I'm very grateful for the way that I was raised. But being a new father of a 2-year-old right now and having another baby on the way, there are some things that I'm going to do a little differently, because I think there's some benefits of giving some grace and having a little bit more patience and not being so rigid as well. But I love my parents to death and they did their best.
So you know how to make a bed?
What's that?
You know how to make a bed?
Oh, I know how to make a bed. I know how to do it well. I started doing my laundry too at like 12. I was
Yeah,
just
I was like
started.
9. I was like
Yeah,
9.
you just lean into that stuff because you know it's gonna happen. Yep.
Yeah, that's why I love asking those questions. So it's kind of fun. No, yeah, so that's okay. So you're oldest of 4, and now if I read somewhere you guys went to Iowa. You grew up in Iowa.
Yeah, I kind of moved all over, and not because my parents in the military, my dad happened to be in a position in production management that made us travel all over. But I've lived in, I think, 5 different states, but I do call Iowa home. That's where I've been most of my upbringing, and that's where most of my close family and friends happen to be as well.
Well, we have a connection there. Again, folks, I don't know him. We've been talking about it. We don't know each other personally, but I used to go to Iowa. I used to run
Okay.
conferences, farm and ag conferences, my former life.
No kidding.
So I used to go to West Des Moines, Clive, Des Moines. I used to go to Taco John's, get my potato
Oh
Olay.
my gosh, dude, out of all places that I eat in Iowa, Taco John's is where I eat the most frequently. My go-to is the 6 pack in a pound. You
Yep.
get you get 6 tacos, as you know, and a
Yes.
pound of Olays, like the potato wedges for people that don't know how great Taco John's is.
Oh, you guys don't even understand. The potato Olays are my favorite. You guys don't even understand. They're so
That's so
good.
that's so funny. Man, my respect is growing for you by the minute because
See,
we have a lot in
we
common.
have
We
this
have a lot in
connection.
common.
I know
Yes.
there's a connection. Like really, like,
Yes.
again, we did not plan this, folks. It's kind of funny. But no, so I spent a lot of time there. I spent over a 10-year period. We go several times a year, run these conferences, and I get to see the outer skirts and kind of all that. I love the Midwest anyway. But
Mhm.
when it comes to Iowa for you, you got home. What are a couple of things that you carry with you? You feel now out here in California? We always bring stuff with us when we go.
Yep. Yep. I think the thing that I appreciate most about the town that I come from of 1,000 people is just the very simple, content lifestyle that they live. Um, they don't really need or desire anything fancy or flashy. Um, there are many people that are financially successful, but that's not the root of their happiness and that's not their main pursuit. I think they found financing or finances just through doing good work and serving people. Um, the other thing is there's just that Midwest nice quality. There is just I feel like a more pleasant, peaceful demeanor with people that come from that community. And it's probably practically because everybody knows each other. Um, but yeah, I feel like that really, I guess in some ways sets me apart from people that were raised in LA with a busy life. There's
Yeah.
kind of a sense of humility that I try to embrace.
I know the Midwest, everything you say is true. I can try to tell people who've never been, because I have family all through the Midwest. I mean, so I used to live in Pittsburgh, but I have family, in Ohio and Indiana. Like, so they try to tell them that they always talk about middle America, middle America. I said most of middle America is super sweet. They just take care of it. They're very nice, take care of business. You're part of the community. They're very community minded, very family oriented.
Hmm.
Also, it's like I don't know. I feel like when I go there, I always have the best time.
Hmm.
Eat a lot of food. And I go when I'm always there, or drink a lot when I'm there.
Sure.
And then I come home back to LA, and it's like, they won't say hi to me out here. No,
Right.
it just seems. I always say I like the Midwest, and I feel very at home there. And I just think that sometimes it gets a bad rap in general, like the Midwest, the
Sure.
middle country. Like, actually, it's fine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, every place has trade-offs.
Right.
And there's pros and cons of LA, and there's some things that I've met some incredible people out here, and there's some beautiful aspects, of course, about a large city that you just don't have those luxuries in small town. But yeah, the older I get, and especially having a daughter right now, it just seems like it makes more sense to try and raise our child in a community like that first. Um, I think that's kind of our goal, and I 100% want her to experience Los Angeles and other cities, and we're going to also make that a priority as she continues to get older. But yeah, there's just something about having all these resources there and this sense of community, like you said, that you're taken care of, and I'm surrounded by millions of people here, and like you said, I speak to my neighbors less than a town of 1,000 people where I have way more deeper, more meaningful connections, which is kind of ironic.
It's true. What is your ethnic background? I know it's been
Most,
talked about. So like we were talking
yeah,
before the show, but like what is it?
mostly Filipino, and
Oh,
then basically Caucasian.
okay, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. I was going to ask you on the show, General Hospital. Did it give you a race like Cabrera? I was saying Filipino, but I mean I don't know. Did they give you that?
Yeah. No, I don't think it was really. I think at the audition, the audition had a fake character name as well. I thought it might have leaned towards Hispanic or Latino.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
But I think maybe in the process of casting me, they might have realized that I'm actually Asian
yeah,
and maybe try to choose an obscure last name.
yeah.
Because Cabrera and the ties with the Philippines and Spain, I could kind of understand that. So that was
Yes,
maybe intentional.
yes, yes. I was wondering about that. Speaking of that, so comics. Okay, so you're in Iowa doing your thing. What made you decide to not go into military? Clearly, because you're a military family. Some of us go the opposite. I didn't want to do law enforcement, so I did other stuff. Or I actually went medical first, kind of did that. I
Mm.
had medical with my family too. But what was your step to decide you want to come out to California and actually pursue?
Yeah, most of my dreams at growing up were to play professional baseball.
Oh,
And I
okay.
learned quickly throughout my high school career that was not going to happen. I just, you quickly, I was quickly humbled when I wasn't getting
Yes,
those D1 offers. And
yes.
so I ended up playing baseball at a small college in Iowa. And for whatever reason, I heard some ad on the radio, which is so
I know it was
foreign
around.
now,
Yeah,
foreign
I
now.
know
Yeah,
the radio.
right. But there was some pitch to get you to basically it was something like, hey, you want to work in Hollywood? Do you want to work on sets and be an actor, model, and make a bunch of money is what the pitch was. And I was like, yeah, of course, that sounds incredible. very naive to the process and what this whole thing would entail.
Yeah.
But basically, I just decided it sounded like a cool job. And I went to this convention graciously with my mom, and she paid way too much money to meet these big time agents
Yeah,
who
that happens.
who supposedly had connections and stuff. And
Yes.
through being naive and also ambitious, I just decided to pursue local work in the Midwest. And then I had made up my mind, like my junior year of college, that I was either going to move to Chicago or Los Angeles and just do my best and see if I can make a career out of it. It was never really a lifelong dream. I was never formally trained, and I had nobody in my family that was stereotypically artistic. You know, it was just
Yeah.
very working class. And so I just made the jump, and I think I just built a career by trial and error and ambition.
So, I mean, so like, again, you actually answered my other question. Like, there's nobody else in the family doing it. You said you come from certain. So you, but something inside you said, I'm going to go ahead and go this artistic direction, which is very. Not everybody does it. I mean, or I should say, a lot of people do it also, but a lot of people don't do it either. They go that.
Yes, it was an artistic direction, but my heart was not in creating art. It was more
Okay.
about it was truly about vanity and trying to make money. And I thought it was a high status job. You know, it was
Yeah.
for the wrong reasons. And I think over the course of my career, I find out what's important to me and what actually matters and what's actually going to give you a career that will thrive and give you a lifestyle that will be healthy. So the more I separated myself from getting a job that seemed cool and getting a job that makes me a lot of money, I actually found more people wanting to hire me after I was less desperate and in the room for the correct reasons, you know?
That's a good lesson, actually. It's a very good lesson. Well, actually, several good lessons. Another good lesson, too, just for folks out there who want to go into professional sports. There's a million people trying to go into them. So, and there's folks who played since they're 2 years old and 9 years old, and everybody's trying for it. It's not easy. And so I always feel bad for some folks where they train, they play for years, and it's the percentage of folks actually getting to that next level is very low, actually, compared to the world, right? I mean, it's a lot of.
Yes. And then when you even break it down even further, getting to that next level and then keeping your contract and making a living and staying
Yes,
on the team is
yes,
even slimmer, you know?
yes.
I like to use, I grew up playing sports, and I often revert back to sport analogies with comparing it to people that work in Los Angeles and entertainment as well, because it's a very foreign industry to most of my friends and family back in the Midwest. But there are very similar parallels with how saturated the market is and how difficult it is to really make a living in this both industries, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, it is. No, it's and a lot of folks I know who played sports. I played sports growing up too. It's useful. It's useful today. Teams,
Yes.
I think sports are very important for kids. 'Cause it promotes team building and it promotes self confidence. It promotes just skills, motor
Mm-hmm.
skill, everything. It promotes so much that you literally can use the rest of your life. Anyway,
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I'm a huge believer in them as well.
yeah, I remember it too very much. Hey, okay, so how old were you when you came out to California?
23. I graduated college at 22 and then lived at home for a year, saved up money, and then made the move.
Okay, so you're in Los Angeles. You're in Los Angeles. Um, are casting people seeing you? How are they seeing you? Are they seeing you as Amerasian? Are they seeing you as just you? How are they seeing you? When you
At the
come
time or today?
at the time, how are they seeing
At
you?
the time, for I think the only reason I got signed with an agent out here at the time was because Twilight was a huge film and I looked kind of like Taylor Lautner.
Oh yes, okay,
And
yes.
one of my first auditions was for one of the sequels. It was like the Breaking Dawn. I think it was the part one or part two, one of the two
Okay,
around 2013.
yeah.
And I think my agent just thought maybe he can't act worth a crap, but maybe he looks good enough to be a werewolf, you know? And I thought I was gonna book that job, and I thought I had it in the bag. And I have that audition tape because um, I look back on it and it's so horrendous. But I think it was a perfect case of ignorance is bliss. And if I would have known how bad and unprepared I was, I never would have stuck it out. And my agent, I'm still with them today.
Oh, well,
Uh,
okay. Go on,
I'm still
agents.
with them.
They stuck
Yeah,
with
so
you.
because yeah, I mean, I have so much respect, and I feel like I owe them a lot for believing in me at that time, and then just riding this slow growth of a career, you know.
Yeah.
But at the time, I don't know. I don't know what they viewed me as. And I think I was just blind to, you know, those that I probably could have been in touch with to market myself. I was just had to work in this industry, really.
You're like, I'm here. I'll take where I can get. This is why I'm excited to be here. I'm in Los
Oh
Angeles.
yeah, I was blinded by the light. I was like, I'm never leaving this town. There's nothing else I ever want to do. Nothing else makes me happy. And that's why I wasn't working either. It was because I was so desperate, and I wasn't putting in the work to like hone my craft and truly connect with people and truly get into a room, an audition room, which is different now because we do all Zoom. We all do, you know, it's self tapes and stuff. But
Yeah.
usually, like I used to go into the room just wanting the job so bad, and I'm sure they sensed it. And the first the first 4 years of my career were really about learning about myself and figuring out why I was going into the room anxious and why I wasn't booking the job. And it was because I had my heart in the wrong place and I wasn't really putting in the work to serve that project and understanding that I was a bad fit. I was just wanting to be on the CW.
Which I can see you on there now.
That was most of my auditions too, was most of the
Oh, I'm
CW stuff.
sure. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Right. No, that's very cool. I mean, I love how honest you are because that's something that we all are young. Youth, young as youth is away from the young. That whole thing. We all make, roll around, make mistakes here and there. But it sounds like you have learned from them at least. Thank God. You're like, I can't do that anymore. I got you. So it's like you walked away with some valuable lessons in terms of the whole audition process, presenting yourself, networking, right? All those things. You learned all those things, didn't you?
Oh yeah. I mean, just being in LA really changed my life. I think it wasn't until my mid 20s when I really became self-reflective and truly work myself as an individual. Um, because I know there are people in the industry, and I have some friends that are incredible performers and extremely dynamic when they are on stage or in front of a camera, but they're missing a part of their life they're unfulfilled in certain ways. And you could have a career, but the trade-off is you're probably you're just missing something. You're not truly happy. And I wasn't finding success booking work, and I was starting to figure out why that was. And most of it was because I just needed to develop myself.
Yeah.
And over the last few years is when I really started getting traction, when I actually got serious and mature and reprioritized. And I think a lot of that has to do with my marriage and our daughter.
Yeah, and focus. Yeah, you found focus.
Right.
It's like it sounds very like that should happen that way. When you're focused and you do the work, then good stuff comes your direction.
Yes. Yes.
That's kind of how that's supposed to work. What was the first big thing, I'm putting in quotes, for you that you remember you booked?
The thing that comes to mind would be a national McDonald's commercial.
Ooh, okay.
Um, it was actually it was the launch of the all day breakfast campaign.
Yes.
And so I spent like 1 hour on set eating pancakes, and that job paid more than all of my other gigs combined for the year.
Woo!
So it was a great paycheck. And that's when I really felt that was like the first year that I could support myself acting. So that was significant. The other thing that comes to mind with like exercising acting chops would be a guest star that I had on Criminal Minds.
Ooh.
I played this cocky jerk who was the main suspect in this string of crimes that was happening. And it really helped me lean into this side of me that I try to obviously it was like he was like kind of a bully. He was a very selfish, unkind boyfriend who was it was kind of the height of like being a streamer, and he was the all about being flashy and being a bit louder than he probably should have been, you know.
Criminal Mind. That's a good one. They have a fan base. Okay, so now we're gonna lead to you're doing your thing. So how did General Hospital or the soap opera world, was it the first soap opera you had auditioned for?
I've auditioned for Days of Our Lives a couple of
It's
times over the
fast.
years.
Okay.
But I knew I wasn't right for those roles. It was I was probably 25 or 26 at the time, and they were written for somebody who seemed to be like mid 30s, and I just really read much younger too. But this was the first. It was one of those rare roles that I read the breakdown for the audition, and I was like, "Oh man, this guy is me to a T." Um, Everything that was written about him kind of just fit my persona, and it was this freshly out of college, and it was written, he said, by the book, and um loved his job, loved people and doing what was right. And it was kind of all these like those qualities that I was trying to embody at this stage in my life, you know. So I knew I felt like I had a good chance with the part.
Yeah. Did
And
you
it started with
go ahead,
what's
go ahead,
that?
go ahead. No, go ahead.
It started with a self tape that I happened to do in
Okay.
Iowa.
Okay.
Felt strong with it, and then it turned into callbacks here in LA.
Yeah, actually, that's my question. Did you meet with Mark Teschner, my buddy? Meet with him?
I did. Mark is an incredible guy.
Oh, he is completely.
Actually, I've read with I had read with Mark in the past.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, being in the callback and the producer session with him, you got to realize how warm and how supportive he is of actors, and
Yes.
he's one of the rarities in LA. I so appreciate him and his
Oh,
team.
so do I. No, he's a great guy, and he does love actors. He loves actors. That's like you could tell that when it comes to casting. And I'm sure you've gone to castings, and
Yes,
yeah,
and for the most part, I have had mostly pleasant experiences with casting offices, and I understand that they have a very difficult job, and
yeah,
it's not personal for the most part. But Mark and Lisa have done uh you just there's just something special about them, as you know.
yeah, yeah. There is. I completely agree. Okay, so what did they tell you? Well, the breakdown by the book, we didn't see his family or anything, but did they tell you anything else when you started? Just here you go, here's your sides. We'll see you on this thing. Or did they tell you anything more? Or
No, it was like it was so much was in the dark, and that's also what scared me about signing a contract, because I'm used to uh working on a guest star project, and you have kind of the arc of the character, and you know what's exactly going to happen in that episode, and you perform it and they like the way that you did it. And so that's kind of how you plan to do it on the day, and of course with some redirects and stuff. But yeah, I had no idea what to expect, and I was completely naive to a romantic relationship at all with my guy. But I should have known, hindsight, it was like, oh, everybody's in some type of mess on a soap opera. So
yes.
I discovered that quickly. Like I think on day two is when I discovered, like, oh, I think he might be into this cute girl that's in the interrogation room. I'm like, I started to put it together.
That's so funny because people don't understand that people at home, a lot of times actors get their scripts, and it's along the way. They don't always sit down with actors and say, okay, for the next 6 months, it's just, and twists and turns can happen on the next script. And you're like, oh, I got to act that now, right?
Yes,
It's
yes,
that way, yeah, isn't it?
yeah, and it seems like the nature of uh, daytime soaps is, I think the variables are constantly changing as well, and I'm guessing they're rewriting it as they go, and maybe what they had in mind initially changed for a variety of reasons. And that was one of the challenges, was making choices for your character, but also um, not truly knowing his
Yeah.
intention. So you kind of just try to make it your own, and do your best with making it interesting and stuff. But my guy was also kind of dry, which he was written to be, and I kind of leaned into that because I also thought he'd be somebody on the canvas that was different than all the other dynamic people who had skeletons in the closet. I really wanted him to be somebody like true to the day he died. In some regards, he was.
Yeah, he was, because people had all kinds of theories about what he could be this, but then they killed you off. We'll get to
Right.
that in a second, of course. But I want to first say you brought the beginning. So you came on like gangbusters. It was like, I remember the internet just broke the internet. The internet was broken. It was just like, who's this cute guy? And he handed that can of soda
Right.
to Trina. How did you respond to that? Because now you're on a show that's very popular, especially on social media. How did you respond to it? Because, like I said, you were assuming you were reading, I think romance is coming, but at that point, no romance was there yet. It was just kind of like, here's your entrance.
Yes. I was naive on how passionate the fan base is. Like I truly like I don't think there's a more passionate fan base than like daytime soap operas. They're so invested in the storylines and they have so much insight. And that's what I found myself reading comments and I was like, oh, I think I could learn from these because they know so much of the backstory that I hadn't been exposed to yet. And they had so many predictions that I would happen to find out were true. But
Yes.
then the more you read into it, you find out there's also tons of theories and speculations, and reading some of that stuff didn't always serve the performance because you never knew where the direction the writers were going anyways.
Yeah.
But I had fun engaging and reading and uh, having conversations with fans, but I also felt like it didn't always serve my performance. So I think if I could do it over, I think I would have taken a step back and just tried to focus on my own work versus what other people were saying about the show and about the character.
It's because at first, like I said, you came on, um, and there were a non-couple at the time. They weren't really were a couple yet. Well, they're still getting there, but they weren't even there a couple yet. But there's this whole excitement of a new person coming in. And
Mm,
that whole excitement of that, and then who is he related to? Is he related to somebody on the camp? Like you said, all those theories. So yeah, it was a lot, and I just remember the internet was they were just all over it. And it's like I always wondered if the actors will actually look at that stuff when they first come on to kind of see what is the audience kind of thinking. And you're
yes,
saying, yeah, you did, yeah.
no, honestly, yeah, I definitely did. Because it was just a new thing for my family and stuff too. And
Oh
for the
yeah.
first time, you had a relatively significant amount of people talking about you, and that had some excitement, but it also had some anxiety to it, and it was just an odd experience. But like I said, if I could do it all over again, I would engage as much as I can to show gratitude to people, but at the same time, just put more focus on making the character my own instead of trying to figure out their speculations and how they thought my character might fit into the
Yeah.
world. I think I could have, I don't know, served Rory in a different way if I would have approached it in that aspect.
Yeah. Also social media, because I mentioned that I've gotten in trouble a couple of times on social media myself. We all do. How do you navigate it now? How do you navigate social media now in terms of your work or even sharing personal stuff?
Yeah. I think now my whole mantra in life is just to serve people. And before I send out a tweet or anything on Instagram, I I try to be conscious of if it's doing good. I think back in the day, I think I like to stir the pot.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too.
I back in the day, now I try to seek first to understand, then to be understood. And I think in the past, I was just spouting good, bad, provocative jokes, and I don't think it usually served people. I think it just riled people up. It was um, misleading. It was sometimes hurtful. My heart was just in the wrong place. And so now I just try to be a better example. And I do truly try to use social media to connect with people now as opposed to being just strictly entertaining and shocking. Um, as I get older, I just I don't care so much about people uh approving you or liking you, but it's about just doing what is right, being a good person.
I feel the same way. I changed my tone of my tweets and over the last year or so, just kind of go, okay, well, I want to put stuff out that's intentional, that actually has something to say that's going to be really that's going to. The fans are important. We wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for any kind of fan watching your work.
Yes.
And I know how important that is. So you can make some really good connections with people. I know it's online, people go there, but no, I'd say there's some real great connections online.
Yes. And even if you have strong convictions, whether it be religious or politics, social media is just a very difficult, maybe impossible way to truly learn about someone else's perspective and connect and share what you think is right. And so now I just try to have those conversations in person, face to face. Then you can actually get to the nuances of what people believe. And the older I get, the more I'm also just cynical towards religion and politics. Like I'm a very spiritual person. I'm a follower of Jesus, and so that's truly my perspective. But it's not so religious based, and it's not so I'm right, you're wrong. It is truly trying to seek first to understand. And so yeah, I try to be way less divisive, and I really could care less about how you represent yourself or what you believe in. I'm just,
Yeah.
uh, we can connect regardless of that.
Yeah, good. Now, while you were doing the show, you mentioned, how was the soap opera pacing for you? It's
Oh
very
gosh.
different than anywhere else.
Yeah, and people had always told me it's so fast. My manager was like, it's going to be quick, but I still wasn't prepared for it. Um, Character wasn't even in, I mean, he was not even that heavily involved, but it still took a lot of practical work from me week to week. I would have nightmares and dreams about showing up on set and not knowing my lines. I had to battle that stuff mentally. Um, and yeah, I felt like it took me 5 or 6 months to even just get used to how quick they work on the set itself.
Oh
There's
yeah.
not a whole lot of time for conversation in between takes, and you don't have a whole lot of time to connect with the cast and crew. At least I didn't feel like, because I was still worried about getting my lines and making sure I was off book. And
Yeah.
um, but in that regard, it was really good for working on things outside of daytime, because it's such an acting workshop, because
Yeah.
there's not many things that work that quickly.
Yeah. What was like working with Miss Tabiana Ali? What was like working with her? I love her. She's
Oh,
amazing.
she's incredible. And she's such an old soul too. She's so we had she's obviously, I worked with her the most, and we did find times to have really cool conversations when we worked together. Um, and just being from Texas, we have a lot of, I don't know, family values, and she's so down to earth.
She is.
Yeah, she's a wonderful person.
Yeah, people don't know she's all into writing and all kinds of. She has a whole other world, folks, that she does.
Yes, an incredible children's book that she wrote, and she has
Mhm.
another one on the way. Yes, we
Yeah.
have that for our daughter. Yeah.
So I'm not going to do the fan thing. How is it kissing? I was like, but how was it transitioning for you? And so you said for an actor earlier into something romantic on screen.
This was also the first experience having to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
I know it's
and
all
I
clinical and people, it's not as glamorous somebody thinks it is, but I'm just curious for you how you were able to navigate that.
Yeah, we Tabby and I were very professional and maybe more pragmatic than most people. We kind of like discussed it ahead of time, and we were always asking the director like how they saw the scene. So we kind of deferred it to them. I think they probably preferred that we just took it our own direction and made it our own. But we were both new on the show, and were just also getting our footing, that we kind of just, I think, naturally deferred it to somebody else and went as far as they wanted it to.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was odd. It was different because I'd never had to do anything like that before.
Hmm.
Um,
And so how did your wife take it?
it was great for our relationship because it forced us to have conversations that we had never had to have before. Um, and it made me, if she had any insecurities about Tabby and I's work, I totally understood that from her. Maybe it took me a while to get there, but it made me lean into making sure that she felt heard and understood. And a cool thing about all that situation as well is that Tabby and my wife had conversations as well to make sure that they respected each other. And Tabby was extremely professional, making sure that she honored my wife's wishes. And um, it was special for when they got to meet for the first time in person, because my wife expressed her gratitude to Tabby. And just I think being in a romantic relationship on the show, I was grateful to have worked with Tabby because of just her approach and making it easier on my wife and stuff, because my wife is completely disconnected from the entertainment
Right.
industry,
Right.
and it's a new experience to her. And so to have the grace and professionalism of Tabby really made our lives easier. And so I definitely am appreciative of that.
Oh, I love that. No, she's great. I met her mom, and Tabby's mom is great. So she comes from good family. So
Right.
we love that. We love that. That's very good. Working with Dominic Soprogna too. I guess I was thinking you have him. You had homegroup who played Jordan. I mean, you played your
Tanisha, yep.
you're part of the police force. So it
Yep.
was like working with them. You have to develop a little kind of shorthand, I'm sure too.
Yeah. Love Tanisha. We worked a lot together and we have great conversation, very a lot of similarities, and she's always showing love to my baby on Instagram. So I appreciate that. Um, and she was new on the show as well, so we kind of had had a lot of bonding experience talking about the pros and cons and the challenges of working on the show for the first time. And so we bonded over that. And then Dom is just he's so natural and uninhibited on set where there's so many qualities I admired. He just seemed so relaxed, and his personality always shined in between takes, and he's always the one cracking jokes and being lighthearted and giving people crap and stuff. Very much in a way that I wish I had got there, but I think it's from his years of experience.
Yeah.
And he's a true pro. But I had a great time working with both of them.
I love it. Okay, so they decided to go kill you, make you part of the hook killers, victims. So how were you told?
I think if I remember correctly, it seemed like everything was usually heard through the grapevine, where I think a producer told, Teschner, and then Teschner relayed it to my manager, Ryan, who's a good friend of Mark as well. And then Ryan will call me and give me the news. I think it's like any of the storylines, it's like only 2 or 3 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
And but I kind of knew that it was headed in that direction. I figured something big was going to happen with my guy. Either he was going to be the killer or be killed. Just
People would think there were some theories.
yes, and I think that the writers kind of leaned into making it obscure like that as well. But yeah.
So you find out. What were your first? What were your first thoughts? What were your thoughts like? Okay, a job's about to end, or were you like? I mean, what was it? What was it? What were you thinking? Do you remember?
I was surprised. I thought that he would stay around a bit longer,
Yeah.
but I thought it made sense. I thought something major had to happen with his storyline because there was not a whole lot of backstory that ended up getting developed. I thought they started to go down a certain route with kind of talking about his family and giving more about his past, but it never really got there. So I never was truly that shocked.
Yeah.
And I tried to keep that perspective with signing the contract as well, because being low on the totem pole, not having more power than ABC,
Yeah.
I always knew that I was committed to them and they were never committed to me for a certain amount of time. So
Yeah.
I just embraced it.
So playing dead. How was that? It's another big acting milestone thing to play someone who's dying dead. How was that for you?
I wanted to do it justice, but again, I had never done that. Well, actually, I think I've played it a couple times in the past, but I just knew I was probably going to get 1 or 2 takes on this show, and I just wanted it to serve the scene. And it was so quick that I didn't even have time to think. I think I didn't even rehearse it too, because I wanted it to be spontaneous. And I read through the scenes and stuff leading up to it, but I really wanted to just trust my instincts and just do my best on the day to make it as organic as possible.
Yes. But you had Tabby right there. You had some of the other actors. They were all right there with you as you
Yes. And actually the biggest challenge on the day was making sure the fake blood wasn't too big of a mess on like the sets and on the floor and stuff. And I just remember it was a conundrum on like if the prop people should clean up the blood or if the wardrobe is like now it's on here and it's on the couch. And it was like, it's always easy for me to get caught up in my performance, but on shows like that, there are just so many other variables at play that are maybe even more important to some regard, and it's there's so many cogs to make this machine work.
Yeah, us fans had a good laugh at first because we're like, okay, so you got overpowered, but then there's this guy laying on, like, where'd he come from? Like, you laying on the ground. They were concerned about you because obviously you were dying.
Yes,
But like,
yes.
we're like, there's another guy in there too. Like, where'd he come? Like, we had a good laugh.
It was pretty poor police work all around, I think. It wasn't too sharp of a crime scene, let's be real.
Like a chick got took you over, just took you over. That was it. Like,
Yeah,
what's going
yeah,
on?
yeah,
Both of you
yeah.
guys, took both of you guys out. I was like, it's
I
crazy.
got a shot off. I don't know where it went. I was pointing it at, yeah, you know.
Yeah, because you did. You're right. I felt that just now. So you said now there was a shot that yeah. Where'd it go?
Yeah, yeah. A
Yeah,
lot
but
of questions.
okay, so you offer that. So now, meanwhile, back at the ranch, we're like sitting there, we're going, wait a minute. That guy looks familiar in this big, gigantic movie that everybody was anticipating, and that was Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. Talk about how you became part of that, and now you're part of the Marvel universe.
Yeah, again, it started off with a self-tape in Iowa over the summer, and I thought it was a long shot. It was one of those that I did. I'm never going to hear from him again. I don't think I'm right. I don't think I'm right for the role, and turned into a direct booking off of the tape.
Wow.
And that was the experience of kind of what I envisioned a Hollywood job was like, and that it was very much the stereotypes of what you'd think a set would be. And so it was an incredible time of getting taken care of and having a huge amount of money on a production and having a nice trailer and having incredible craft service. Um, but
Folks, when the productions are better, the craft services are better too.
yeah, yeah, and it's like I don't even need those things, but it was very much like, wow, this is a cool job. It was a really surreal experience. Um, and most of the scenes did get cut, but I am very grateful to be a part of such a huge franchise and being able to work with the talents of Ryan Coogler was a pretty incredible. He's like the most, even on being such an enormous project like that, he was so like so chill and so like calm and collected where I was like terrified and I had like a tiny portion of the film
Yes.
and he was in charge of every aspect of it. My respect for him has grown immensely and his talent was very evident.
So tell folks who you played. So they know. I mean, we're talking, we know, but tell folks who have not seen the movie who you play.
Yeah, I play a character named Henderson. He is the lead mining technician of the vibranium. So you could say you could say that they are um, really not there to do well to the Wakandans.
Yes.
They're kind of there for their own personal gain.
Yes.
And you don't see much of my guy, but he's kind of in charge of the entire operation and in charge of the uh, mining of the ship and the divers to try and locate this substance.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I go. I said, we're like, we saw him. Like, it's him. What are we going here? That's kind of fun.
I'm
So,
glad you didn't. You must not have blinked because it was quick.
just no, but see, go back to soap fans. Soap fans notice everything anywhere. And if we see somebody from the soaps, they I
Sure.
don't care if it's 2 seconds. They'll be like, he's from Marcel. She's from Marcel. They'll know it.
I
They
respect that.
they will know it. Very much so. So he was telling me earlier, so he has a daughter, he has a son on the way, correct? Right. So congratulations, and a March. So coming up soon. How is mother doing at the moment?
She's a trooper. Um, the early stages of pregnancy, but with our daughter and with our son as well, usually take a toll on her. She has a lot of morning sickness,
Um,
but now she's just kind of in the uncomfortable stage, and she's having the back issues, and she's ready to deliver.
yeah.
And her nose is like super insane right now, where she has this
Oh,
super keen sense of smell.
oh,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that's good. I remember that. That's crazy.
But she's an incredible mother, and yeah, that's I think I told you earlier. Uh, Marriage was the best decision of my life, and then having our child was the next best decision. So I'm super grateful.
So, what is next for Michael? What's next, Michael Blake Cruz? What's next for you? Anything you working on, auditioning? Like, what's next for you?
Yeah, I'm really trying to auditions are such a rat race. I'm
Yeah,
really trying to be more mindful and just choose things that I feel like are projects that will serve people and are stories to get behind. Um, right early when I moved in LA, I said no to nothing and said yes to yes of everything. I'll do it. I'll try it. Yeah, I'm right for it. But now I just kind of want to develop my own projects, and writer friends and producer friends that kind of got their start at the same time I did, where they're moving up in their careers as well. So we're developing our own things.
Good.
Um, there's this, I grew up wrestling, and there's this high school wrestling project that I helped develop. I really want to get that off the ground. I play a coach in that. Um, there's also a show on Netflix right now called Thai Cave Rescue.
Oh,
It's an incredible true story about that incident in Thailand regarding,
oh yeah, 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 yeah.
yes.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a couple projects regarding that. There's a film and then the series, and I voiced Coach Eck for the dubbing of it.
Okay,
And I just want to recommend that because this is an incredible story of true
yeah,
heroism and some incredible people.
yeah.
And that's on Netflix right now. Um, and then I recently did a spokesperson role for a project in Iowa, so I
Oh,
got to honor the Midwest a bit. But really, I think my priority is just getting the family back to the Midwest. That was kind of our goal over the last couple of years, and General Hospital gratefully threw a wrench into those plans. But yeah, with one daughter and another child on the way, we really miss our family and friends and having those resources to surround our family with. And it makes our life so much easier. And I get so much more sleep, and I get some more work done when I have grandfathers and
yes,
grandmothers that are just always there to help. So that's kind of what we're working to do.
yeah. I feel like nowadays that I want to go at home, there are a lot of people who don't live in Hollywood, Los Angeles, and they work. And because productions now film in other parts of the country, they're filming in Pittsburgh, they're filming in Chicago, Atlanta, North Carolina, Tennessee, in LA. They're filming like say you literally could go on call somewhere and go, okay, I'll be back in a week or a couple of weeks and do something.
Yeah, as terrible as the pandemic was, the silver lining was that for people like us, yeah, you can work remotely and you can travel and you can audition from anywhere. And that's been the biggest blessing for my career because I'm not that great going into I'm not that great going into rooms, meeting a bunch of strangers and doing my best job. It's an imperfect process, and it usually doesn't bring out the best performance. Some people knock it out of the park, but I kind of like to workshop it a few times, and I have much better uh tapes get sent out when I'm doing it for 30 minutes in the kitchen with my wife.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, that's kind of the plan, is live in the Midwest and work out of there for a while.
Yeah. You can do it. You can totally do it, folks. I mean, people are doing it all the time. That's why I love it. Like the pandemic changed everything, but in some ways, for the I would say for the better, but also for the broader. It's like you said, change things for it. Just it makes things more options are now happening.
Yeah, it shook things up, and people realized that they could still have the same positive outcomes by just doing things a little differently. I think it's probably
Exactly.
saving people money and saving people time, and why would you change that now?
Yes, I agree with that. Michael Blake Cruz, thanks for being on the show. You've done you this is wonderful. So thanks for being on the show.
I appreciate it, James, and it's cool to find out how much we actually have in common. So it's a
I know
pleasure.
that yeah, crazy, it's crazy. So that's like I said, things were not planned. It's like it's just
Yes.
kind of kismet. It kind of happened.
And
Uh,
you need to let me know if that peanut butter passes your taste test.
I'm going. I know seriously. I'm going to Costco after this with somebody. I'm gonna get the peanut butter. I'm gonna check out.
Yep.
I'm gonna check it out. The Kirk member. I'm gonna check it out because like literally, I'm almost done with my Skippy. It's almost done.
Got it.
I have Jif too sometimes. I have a couple of them, but I was
Got
like,
it.
I love trying. I love trying peanut butter. That's
Yeah.
what I do. I love
And
trying.
be honest, if you don't like it, that's cool too.
Yeah, I'll tell you. I'll text. I'll tell you. I didn't like it, Michael. That's nasty. No, okay.
I'll give you my address and you can mail it to me. Okay, I'll take it.
Where can they find you if they want to follow you? Actually, talk on social media if they want to follow you.
Social media, if you search Michael Blake Cruse, Cruse with a K, I always tell people that, you could find me. And then my wife and I are going to ramp up our the Cruises podcast on YouTube as well. So we'll get back into that.
Okay, yes. So you gotta look him up. I'll put some stuff in the description so you can go to him and
Cool.
follow him. But it is Cruz with a K,
Yep.
not Cruz with a C. So like,
Correct.
it's not like Tom. It's Michael Blake.
I'm not that cool. Yep.
I mean, I'm not that cool either. I'm like Tom. He's a little older than I, but he's doing great. Folks, thanks for watching our show. Of course, if you have any comments or questions, put them down below. We like to hear from you at home. Make sure you share this with everybody you know. Hi to all the GH fans out there who support my show all these years. We're going on 8 years doing the show. So thank you so much. And to my regular host, my other show, Frank Moran, I will say hello to him. But we'll be back with more interviews, more shows coming in the future. Thank you so much. I'm James Lott Jr. We'll see you next time.